What if you didn't land here by accident? What if you chose this configuration? And what if that restlessness you feel isn't failure, but memory? What if you've been remembering who you are in fragments, downloading pieces of your real stats, but never stabilising them long enough to actually play them? For nearly a decade, I felt like I was remembering something, not ambition, not status, something deeper. And the gap between remembering and becoming almost tore my life apart. In most games, when you spawn in, you see your stats, strength, intelligence, skill tree, class archetype. You know your role, but in this game, you spawn blind. Nobody says you're wired for depth, you're wired for leadership, you're wired for systems, you're wired for connection. You just arrive, and immediately the tutorial begins. Family, school, culture, expectation. You inherit scripts before you even know you're running them. Be responsible, be strong, be useful, be reliable. Don't be too emotional. Don't be too different. And if you're not careful, you build your entire identity around surviving the tutorial instead of discovering your actual configuration. Some players spawn into easier maps, some spawn into survival mode, some inherit capital, some inherit constraint, some inherit waiting loops. And if you're competent, you can build a very convincing life around the wrong wiring. That's the dangerous part, because you don't look broken, you'll look functional. And functional misalignment is harder to detect than obvious failure. Most men don't feel lost, they feel slightly off, restless, underused, like there's something in them that isn't being deployed properly. That's not weakness, that's under calibration. The moment you arrive, the amnesia hits. You don't remember the configuration, you inherit the tutorial. But here's where it gets interesting. What if this game does have a stat sheet? It's just hidden. What if before you spawned, you chose your loadout? Not your postcode, not your job title, not your bank balance, your wiring, your archetype, your emotional engine. What if your sun sign is your core archetype, your moon sign, your emotional operating system, your rising sign, the interface your avatar presents to the world? What if your gene keys are your hidden skill tree, not personality labels, blueprints, shadows to transmute, gifts to unlock, patterns that activate under pressure? In most games, you see your stats at level 1. In this one, you have to go looking. And most men never do. They compare loadouts, they copy playstyles, they chase someone else's leaderboard without ever asking, what am I actually built for? If that sounds abstract, fine, but ask yourself, why do certain environments light you up instantly? Why do certain roles drain you instantly? Why do some men thrive in chaos while others suffocate? Why do some feel alive building systems while others feel alive connecting people? Wiring matters, and if you ignore wiring, you spend years trying to force a configuration that doesn't suit your internal archetype. That's not failure, that's misapplied effort. Now here's the uncomfortable part. For nearly 9 years, there was a version of me inside that I could feel clearly, more aligned, more intentional, more integrated. But the man I consistently showed up as wasn't stabilised yet. I knew who I was becoming, but I wasn't consistently being him. That's not confusion, that's integration lag. I was mentally simulating the man I knew I could be, visualising the systems, imagining the structure, feeling the loadout internally, but externally, old habits, old coping, old survival patterns. My internal vision was moving faster than my embodied stability. And when that happens, you split. You become two versions. The man who sees the map and the man still running old code. That split creates pressure in relationships, in identity, in self-respect. My marriage didn't collapse because I was discovering myself. It collapsed because I hadn't stabilised the man I was becoming. Internal evolution, external inconsistency, and inconsistency erodes trust. That's not shame, that's embodiment delayed. You cannot expect your external life to stabilise while your operating system is still mid-upgrade. There was a period where I felt aligned without effort. Australia, hospitality, community, flow. No mental noise, no obsession with the future, just presence. That was unconscious alignment. I was playing my loadout without analysing it. I wasn't thinking about mission. I was simply operating in a map that suited my wiring. That's important because environment fit can mask identity confusion. You can feel aligned simply because the map suits your temperament. Remove the map, remove the people, remove the context. Now what? Can you recreate alignment without the perfect environment? That's identity clarity. Most men confuse "I was happy there" with "I understand myself." They're not the same thing. But when that season ended, I didn't know how to recreate alignment consciously. And that's when the long integration arc began, where the deeper work began. Because unconscious alignment feels like luck. Conscious alignment is built. I had a regression experience once. I didn't see a body, I didn't see a face. I saw energy, blue and yellow. Two stat clusters, one loadout. Blue is for intuition, emotional depth, spiritual sensitivity, listening beyond words. Yellow was for structure, strategy, system building, pattern recognition. Some men are wired to feel deeply, but struggle to build structure. Some are wired to build structure, but suppress emotional depth. Some of us are wired for both. That's not superior, it's simply configuration. But if you suppress half your wiring because it doesn't fit the environment, you fragment. If you lean hard into one side without integrating the other, you destabilize. And around me, not faces, frequencies, auras, presence without form, communication without language, recognition without introduction. And the dominant feeling wasn't excitement, it was joy, complete, overwhelming. So here's the game-coded question. What if that was the lobby, the pre-spawn space, where you choose your stats and accept your mission parameters? Not for glory, for contribution. Some players choose easier maps, some choose constraint, some choose pressure, some choose leadership. Some choose to heal broken parts of the map, and then you spawn and you forget. There's another mechanic nobody talks about, background programs. You can have 50 tabs open in your nervous system and not even realise. Unresolved grief, comparison loops, future fantasies, family narratives. And one of mine was this: I'll fully step into my mission when the funds arrive. For years that loop ran quietly, shaping identity, deferring confidence. Because attaching embodiment to capital means you're still outsourcing confidence. Money amplifies identity, it doesn't create it. If you cannot stabilise your configuration inside constraint, freedom will not magically stabilise you, it will expose you. That was one of my hidden drains, because waiting feels safe, embodiment feels exposed. There are mechanics in this game that look harmless because they're culturally normal, but normal doesn't mean optimal. Alcohol is one of them. It reduces friction, it smooths conversation, it gives temporary confidence, but it taxes your operating system. It fragments discipline, it slows stat integration. And most men don't think they have a problem because the problem isn't dramatic, it's cumulative. Anything repeated long enough installs itself into identity. So here's the mechanical approach. If repetition installs destructive patterns, repetition installs constructive ones too. Run the opposite mechanic for 90 days, not forever, 90 days. Remove one mechanic or install one new one. That's long enough to update your operating system. Choose wisely. Recently I had a dream. I was back in a pub, old environment, old mechanic, friends drinking, confidence slightly shaky. I thought, I'll order one. And everything that could go wrong did. The pint smashed, the keg ran dry, the room got chaotic. By the time the drink was in front of me, I woke up. And my first thought wasn't regret, it was clarity. I wouldn't have had this mind this morning. That's when I knew the upgrade was real. Not because I forced discipline, because the operating system had updated, even subconsciously. When my life cracked, it wasn't collapse, it was recalibration. I used to restart strategy games constantly, not because I failed, because I saw inefficiencies early. The first 10 moves shaped the next 100. So this phase of my life, precision, sleep dialed, training consistent, mind sharper, no dramatic announcements, not explosive change, micro optimization, 1% compounds, 1% better daily. That's not sexy, that's unstoppable. You don't need total freedom to begin. You need a window, a defined block of time where you're not reacting, but building. I structured a 3.5 day rhythm. 4 days compressed, 3 days expanded. Truck driving, then building. Imperfect 888 attempts. Less sleep than ideal. More effort than glamorous, but intentional. Not perfect freedom, but space. Inside that window, I build skill, I film, I train, I integrate. 8 hours building, 8 hours restoring, 8 hours living. And here's the truth. If you can't build momentum inside a small window, you won't build it inside a large one. Freedom magnifies discipline. It doesn't manufacture it. Engineer the window, protect it, run it like it matters, because it does. This isn't a solo campaign. I've got 2 boys in tutorial phase watching my configuration. My job isn't to design their loadout, it's to help them discover theirs, to model integration. If I remain fragmented, they inherit confusion. Embodiment is generational. If I don't stabilise mine, I project instability onto theirs. That ends with me. The real leaderboard isn't wealth, it's who becomes stronger because you stabilised it first. We're entering pressure, economic, cultural, psychological. Most respond with panic or escapism. I'm choosing structure, bottom-up building, small systems tested repeatedly, slow, dense builds scale cleaner than fast chaos. If I build environments one day, they'll be built on integration, not hype. Freedom isn't acceleration first, it's peace first, then controlled acceleration. Explosive growth excites, controlled acceleration builds empires. Compression builds strength, strength builds stability, and stability allows expansion without collapse. Listen carefully. You're not random, you're not broken, you're not late. You're configured, you're mid-integration, you're remembering. But remembering isn't enough. You must stabilise, engineer your window, protect one disciplined block, one evening, one day, 3 days. Inside that window, train your body, sharpen your mind, build your skill, create something real, then run it for 90 days. Remove one dulling mechanic and install one strengthening one. Stop running background programs, close the tabs, pick your quest, study your wiring, stop copying configurations, stop waiting for capital, stop outsourcing courage. You don't quit impulsively, you replace strategically. Competence builds confidence, confidence builds leverage, and leverage builds options. When what you're building is stronger than what you're inside, you transition decisively. You don't need full freedom, you need alignment inside constraint. And when freedom arrives, it will magnify who you already are. If you stabilise now, you'll be ready. This isn't about winning, it's about steering. If you feel restless, good. That's your configuration trying to come online. The world doesn't need noise, it needs integrated men. Men who build slowly, men who steer consciously, men who remember why they spawned. You didn't spawn here by accident. You chose this map. Now remember why. Go play. Slàinte Mhath, guys. Ciao.